the rest of the program. Thank you, Your Excellency.
The 55th annual session of ALCO, His Excellency Professor Liu, President of the 54th annual session of ALCO, His Excellency Professor Kennedy Gaston, Secretary General of ALCO. It would be remiss of me if at this juncture I did not pay tribute and acknowledge the great work done by my Kenyan brother and colleague, the late eminent Professor Frank Xavier Jenga, who was the first African elected as Secretary General of ALCO and who subsequently served as a member of the International Law Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, since its inception over 60 years ago, ALCO continues to serve as a major platform for Asian-African legal exchanges and cooperation. The organization plays a vital role in strengthening regional governance and in safeguarding our common rights and interests. This has been made possible by the extraordinary dedication and intellect of generations of legal experts from Asia and Africa. It remains our duty to carry forward the spirit of respecting the rule of law and to continue building on the international legal system. The international landscape and governance system are and will continue to undergo profound and complex changes, with new problems and challenges emerging from time to time. In this regard, ALCO member states should enhance cooperation, demonstrate mutual understanding, and support each other on core matters. Member states should also firmly uphold fairness and justice and ensure that the international order and governance system is more just and equitable and in favor of our member states. Distinguished delegates, we are pleased to welcome to the ALCO family our newest member, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, that becomes a full participating state of ALCO as at the 24th of February 2017. As of today, ALCO represents the interests of 47 countries that are home to the majority of the world's population. ALCO ensures that the voice of developing nations is heard and that our interests are catered for at the global platform. When we speak with one voice, the world surely has to sit up and negotiate with us in areas of interest within international law domain. When we speak with one voice, each ALCO state, no matter how big or how small, will be contributing to the development of international law. Ladies and gentlemen, international law is developing rapidly, having moved away from its limited and traditional areas of operation. Indeed, at the risk of sounding dramatic, the present time may well prove to be one of the most crucial eras in history, with the emergence of pertinent issues requiring urgent legal intervention in areas such as climate change, terrorism, piracy, cybercrime, and refugees. These are all challenges occurring in all regions of the world, hence the need to address them as a community of nations. ALCO has over the years played a critical role in providing a forum among developing countries in Asia and Africa to exchange views, formulate positions, and through a unified approach to influence the codification and development of international law. This role is further enhanced by the close cooperation that ALCO enjoys with the International Law Commission on account of the statute of the ILC that recognizes the need for consultation between the Commission and intergovernmental organizations, including regional organizations whose mandate it is to help in the codification of international law. Distinguished delegates, since 1970, when Kenya became a member of ALCO, we have continued to support the vision and mission of the organization. We remain when there are so many global issues that are demanding our attention. The international community is faced with increasing challenges. The age-old question remains, how can international law help to overcome these challenges? The answer lies in the transformative power of international cooperation and solidarity, and thereby achieves the overall objective of strengthening international peace and security. Through international cooperation, rules of law that correspond to the needs of contemporary conditions existing in the international community can be codified and consequently reflect the views and aspirations of all states. As a symbol and a tool of Asian-African solidarity and cooperation, ALCO is unique and without comparison. It is my hope that the Buddha spirit, which has permeated the work of ALCO for the better part of the past century, will continue to inform the work of ALCO at this 56th annual session. I have no doubt that in-depth exchange of views on the issues that have been placed on the agenda of this session will contribute immeasurably to the development of the law in these areas. With these few remarks, please accept my very best wishes for the 56th annual session of ALCO, and I wish all of you a fruitful and successful session. It is now my humble duty to call upon His Excellency Professor Dr. Kennedy Gaston to make his preliminary remarks.
Of Foreign Affairs, People's Republic of China, and the President of the 54th Annual Session of ALCO, Honorable Ministers, Cabinet Secretaries, Excellencies, High Commissioner, it is encouraging and extremely motivating for us that ALCO and its initiatives remain valuable to you all. Your continued and active participation helps us save and assist our member states with greater vigor and zeal. I'm sure we would immensely benefit from your insightful deliberations and comments, and eagerly look forward to your participation in this session. Your Excellency, Deputy President, I would firstly like to use this opportunity to thank our gracious and very beautiful host country of the Republic of Kenya for having painstakingly made all necessary arrangements that has made this annual session of ALCO possible and to take place in a timely and well-organized manner. Our host country, the Republic of Kenya, had also hosted ALCO's annual session on 2 occasions in the past, in the 1989 and 2005, for the 28th and 44th sessions respectively, which were highly successful. Also, the former Secretary General of ALCO, the then His Excellency Secretary General, late Mr. Frank Njenga, was also from Kenya, and he served the organization immensely for 2 consecutive terms of 3 years each, from the year 1988 to the year 1994. Your Excellency, Deputy President, Kenya has taken various important initiatives to make African perspective on international issues to be heard on the world forums. It has also helped to place Africa as a key player on the international arena. Furthermore, the Kenyan delegations have always made valuable contribution to the subjects deliberated upon during the annual sessions of ALCO. As we assemble here today, I would want to point out that in the first place, there has been many development in the international arena, both positive and negative. And owing to the growing importance of ALCO within the international community, ALCO has indeed embarked upon a new phase in its journey towards firmly placing the Asian-African voice on international platform. Therefore, it is a time to recall yet again the Bandung spirit and to encourage more active engagement of the states of the two most consequential continents of the world in matters of international affairs of today. Your Excellency, Deputy President, as this is the first session that I convene as the Secretary General of this eminent organization, I hope for your continued support and guidance in the work of organization so that together we can take the organization to a greater heights and to achieve the objective for which it was established. It is also a matter of pride for me to host my first annual session as the Secretary General of ALCO here in East Africa and in Kenya particular, which is my birthplace. Your Excellency, Deputy President, the reasons for continued importance of interregional organization like ALCO have only multiplied over the recent times. Firstly, there are continuing threats of violence, crimes, and terrorism, as well as virtual spheres which states in Africa, Middle East, and Asia have to especially face almost on a day-to-day basis. Combating violent extremism and terrorism remain a priority for these states. As you are all aware, the United Nations continues to make constant efforts in the direction of creating an effective global movement to counter terrorism, which include the important recent development of the 2015 United Nations Security Council Resolution 2253 to address the threat posed to international peace and security by the Islamic State in Iraq and other regions. It's also important to recognize and note the United Nations General Assembly Resolutions 291 on the global counterterrorism strategy. ALCO's work in this regard continues to remain important as it continues to follow the ongoing discussions at the international level, at the UN General Assembly and other forums, and to foster further discussion between member states on this topic. Then there is a continuing problem of displacements, particularly within regions of Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. That is to say, Asian African region in general and ALCO member states in particular are bearing the brunt of this crisis. This continues to make ALCO an important player in the process of the alleviation of this crisis. In addition to the various effective initiatives undertaken in the past in this regard, ALCO continues to engage in the process of future negotiations for adopting comprehensive approaches to the problems of refugees and displaced persons, and also monitoring development in the negotiation of the proposed 2018 Global Compact on Refugees, as well as 2018 Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. Your Excellency, Deputy President, there have also been an important development related to International Criminal Court. ALCO role remains important in this regard, as the task of ending impunity cannot lie upon one judicial system, one state, or any one region. Justice in The Hague is essentially a dialogue between international institutions, international jurisdiction, and the domestic jurisdictions. ALCO has taken upon itself to foresee and guide an active dialogue amongst its member states in this regard, and also to encourage its member state to considering ratifying or acceding to the Rome Statute in order to bring accountability to end impunity globally. Then there have been a number of new developments in the area which is relatively new to ALCO's agenda, that is international law in the cyberspace. The member states flagged topics on this important subject most recently over the second open-ended working group meeting on international law in cyberspace, which was held at the ALCO headquarters in New Delhi from 9th to 10th February this year. ALCO continues to work on this topic, including projecting the possibility of drafting a set model laws on combating cybercrimes in the future through the open-ended working group. The Secretariat will release its special study on international law in cyberspace, which was already introduced to the participating member states at the second open-ended working group meeting at the present in this annual session. Your Excellency, the year 2017 marks the anniversaries for a number of events that took place in the state of Palestine. As the member states already are aware, ALCO from the very time of its coming into existence has provided unwavering support to the cause of Palestinian people. The item, deportation of Palestinians in violation of international law, particularly the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949, and the massive immigration and settlement of Jews in occupied territories, was taken up at the ALCO's 27th session, which was held in Singapore in 1988. Palestine was formally welcomed in the organization as a member state to ALCO in the year 1990, and subsequently, the scope of the item was enlarged to deportation of Palestinians and other Israel practices, among them massive immigration and settlement of Jews in the occupied territories in violation of international law, particularly the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949 and 38th session in Accra in 1999. The item has since been discussed at successive sessions of ALCO as part of its work program, and the organization has examined the violation of international law committed by the State of Israel against the Palestinian people, and the ALCO Secretariat has already published a study entitled The Statehood of Palestine Under International Law in this regard. By virtue of Resolution 55S4, which directed the Secretariat to, among others, prepare a study on the legality of prolonged Israel occupation of the occupied Palestinian territory and its colonial practices therein under international law and international humanitarian law. ALCO Secretariat will, at this session, also release its special study entitled The Legality of Israel's Prolonged Occupation of Palestinian Territories and its Colonial Practices therein at this session. Your Excellency, Deputy President, I hope this annual session turns out to be a befitting platform for a member state to relive the actual spirit of Bandung, which was the spirit of solidarity between the African and Asian nations, so as to be able to take constructive steps towards gathering the united voice of the Asian and African regions on matters of the yet obfuscating issues of international law. In this context, I welcome the initiative of Japan to host an international workshop on promoting rule of law in Asia and Africa, Japanese contribution. I also welcome the initiative of China and Republic of Kenya for co-organizing a side event in this annual session on the title, Combating Illegal Trade to Wild Fauna and Flora through Cooperations under International Law Framework, in order to share experiences of the countries and other international cooperations. I also take this opportunity to thank Deputy Secretary Generals as well as the ALCO Secretariat for their hard work and dedication that has made the final execution of this session possible. I would also like to extend once again my deep gratitude to the Office of the Attorney General and the Department of Justice of the Republic of Kenya for supporting this session in spite of the inconveniences of the upcoming general election in this country in just about 3 months' time from now. To conclude my statement, I once again welcome you all to this 56th session of ALCO, being held here in the dynamic, multi-ethnic, at the same time, very modern city of Nairobi. I sincerely hope that this session will witness outcome-oriented deliberations, paving the way for it to be a success. Thank you very much.
Taking time from His Excellency's busy schedule for gracing this occasion. I feel greatly honored in informing that the 55th annual session of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization was held in New Delhi last year in month of May. His Excellency Dr. V.D. Sharma, Legal Advisor of the Ministry of External Affairs of India, was elected as the President of the 55th session of the organization. It is customary that the next session of the organization is addressed by the current President of the ALCO. Dr. V.D. Sharma, due to certain important engagements in Delhi, could not make it possible to be present here today, and therefore I humbly hold his job and feel privileged to deliver the opening remarks on behalf of the President. I would like to express our profound gratitude to the government of the Republic of Kenya and the people of the Republic of Kenya for hosting 56th annual session of ALCO in this beautiful city of Nairobi, and for the warm hospitality extended to all delegations. Excellencies, I take this opportunity to thank the member states and observers who participated and contributed at the 55th session held in New Delhi and making it a success. I express my sincere gratitude to all member states of ALCO and the Secretary General in extending full cooperation and support during India's presidency. Excellencies, turning to the origin of the organization, since the historic Bandung Conference and its inception, ALCO has unfailingly discharged the mandate of facilitating democratization of the development and codification of international law. The organization's approach has been always practical, then ambitious. ALCO remains a platform to meet the aspirations and expectations of the Asian and African continents. In developing Asian-African approaches to the international law and thereby facilitating its progressive development. It is a matter of pride for my country, India, to be one of the founding members of this organization and hosting the headquarters of the organization. I take this opportunity to congratulate and welcome the Socialist Republic of Vietnam as the new member state of ALCO. Excellencies, I am proud that organization has been active in fulfilling its mandate entrusted to it by the member states. I am confident that the 56th annual session would be an excellent one, like previous sessions, with the cooperation from all member states and observers. Excellencies, continents of Africa and Asia have contributed significantly to the progressive development of modern international law. These continents have been part of the ongoing process of shaping new rules and principles of international law while strengthening existing ones. Some of the important areas worth mentioning are human rights law, including refugee law, humanitarian law, law of the sea, law of treaties, sharing of water courses, etc. In the context of present host country, Kenya's commendable contribution to the growth of ALCO needs to be highlighted. Since becoming a member state of ALCO, Kenya hosted ALCO's annual sessions in 1989 and 2005. The former Secretary General of ALCO, the late Professor Frank Jenga, a distinguished academician from Kenya, served the organization for 2 consecutive terms for the year 1988 to 1994. We are always indebted to his able leadership, which helped ALCO to contribute in the development of various fields of international law. Excellencies, there can be no doubt that if international society is to evolve and grow along rational and peaceful lines, it must do so in accordance with legal principles and rules. Without clear and widely recognized rules of international law, and without strict observance of such rules and of basic principles and norms of international law embodied in the UN Charter, it would be impossible to ensure international cooperation and the peace and security which is necessary to promote the general welfare of all people and nations. The importance of regional organizations in this task cannot be overlooked. Excellencies, in the backdrop of ever-widening canvas of international law, ALCO's relevance for its member states is further reinforced in working with other important international organizations. In this context, it is worth mentioning that ALCO's close cooperation with the United Nations has provided an additional platform for ALCO member states to participate in the interactive dialogue and thereby to contribute to the progressive development of international law. In the same spirit, ALCO follows the work of International Law Commission and deliberates on the important topics under consideration of the Commission at its annual sessions. The establishment of 4 regional arbitration centers in Cairo, Kuala Lumpur, Tehran, and Lagos reflects the approach of ALCO towards alternative dispute resolution system. It is our hope that over time, ALCO would play even greater role in the field of alternative dispute resolution. Excellencies, important topics of contemporary relevance such as violent extremism and terrorism, the status and treatment of refugees, selected items on the International Law Commission, International Criminal Court, and international law in cyberspace are going to be deliberated in the next 4 days. I am confident that these deliberations would contribute in enriching the discussions happening at the United Nations and other multilateral forums. Excellencies, I extend my profound gratitude to the Secretary General of ALCO and his dedicated team for their meticulous efforts in making the activities of ALCO a grand success. Professor Gaston has been proactive in his efforts to fulfill the mandate entrusted on him by the member states since he assumed office in August 2016. Toward this end, he has been in constant touch with the Indian government and has been constantly engaging with other member states to gather their support for ALCO activities. I also assure the full cooperation of the Government of India in facilitating the activities of ALCO. Let me once again wish all delegates and observers attending this session a fruitful week of deliberations and a pleasant stay in Nairobi. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. On behalf of the President, the people, and the government of Kenya, I wish to welcome all of you because of the necessity of the arrangements that have been put in place and because of the heavy schedule that you have. But I want to encourage you to find some time and enjoy Nairobi. Nairobi is a great city. In fact, it is the only city in the world that has a national park within 10 minutes drive. You may be lucky to find some lions on the road. Please don't get involved because they are wild. Find some time to enjoy Kenyan tea. It is the very best in the world. Even our friends from India, we imported tea from India, but we improved on it. It's better than what you have in India now. And while you are in Nairobi, I want to remind you that Nairobi and Kenya is home to humanity. Science, and I'm saying this as a scientist myself, science has proven that the very earliest remains of man were found a few kilometers from here. So those of you who've come from Australia and India and Asia and Japan and China and everywhere else, welcome home. This is where we all came from. You're very welcome home. The president was supposed to preside over this function, but unfortunately, because of exigencies of duty, he was not able. But I want to tell you that the people of Kenya warmly welcome all of you. The deliberations you are going to engage in over the next 4 days, focusing on the development of international law, are indeed important, not to this conference only, but to our region and to the world. It is my expectation that no doubt this discussion will benefit not only us, but it will benefit the larger international community. I want to appreciate the founders of ALCO. Indeed, they had a clear vision for our two continents, and they have demonstrated that as developing nations, we can make an impact in the international stage. As policymakers, we know that when we deepen cooperation, our economies benefit immensely, and the world have no choice but to pay attention. I note with satisfaction that Africa and Asia continue to cooperate in various ways, and Kenya can attest that both continents share a vision for a stable and prospering global community. Kenya has partnered with many countries in Asia. China, for example, are working with us on the transformation of our infrastructure. The most notable example is the Standard Gauge Railway, which by June this year, in a month's time, will be commissioned and will be working. A feat that is well ahead of schedule. We've worked with India in the healthcare sector. We've worked with Japan on some of our infrastructure development projects, including our ports. And many other countries, including Korea, in the field of ICT. We have, of course, worked with our partners in the East African community as a region. And that collaboration and working together with our East African partners has enabled us to improve on the ease of movement of persons, the single network area for mobile telephony. And we now have a single tourist visa for the whole of the region, the East African region. That has given us milestones in the cooperation and networking in our region. Let me emphasize, each one of your states represented here continue to play a role in the development of our country. This is in recognition of the fact that when we lift each other, we ensure a success story for both continents. The Asian-African unity embodies what is known as the spirit of Ubuntu. I am because we are. Together we stand. Let us therefore strengthen the bonds of brotherhood and solidarity throughout our region and between our continents. Let us ensure that our voice is heard and our interests secured in global politics. To the members of the diplomatic corps who have joined us today, and to their colleagues in their capitals, we consider your friendship important to the people of Kenya. Kenyans have always lived in peace with our neighbors and with a national consensus to do good in the world. We appreciate your support, both moral and material. We would wish to take our friendship with you to greater heights of ambition and achievement as we continue to build a prosperous Kenya underpinned by a strong democracy. Distinguished delegates, today, conflict in the developing nations is to a large extent driven by desire of other states to exploit resources. It is incumbent upon us to ensure that the interests of developing nations are protected by a stable and just order. We must ensure that we are champions of global institutions that are grounded in fairness and respect for national sovereignty. I say this informed by Kenya's cases at the International Criminal Court, which I say I'm happy they have ended. But the experience with the ICC gave us cause to observe that these institutions and similar ones oftentimes have become tools of global power politics, and they do not deliver the justice that they were built to dispense. Kenya, therefore, wishes to urge ALCO, member states and partners to ensure that we have greater say, both within and without the international judicial institutions so that we can remedy and ensure that they serve the purpose for which they were intended and not any other purpose. ALCO continues to play a critical role in the progressive development of international law. We proudly recall the role of ALCO in the development of the law of the sea. ALCO has also contributed through its deliberations in the international human rights regime, the law of treaties, principles concerning extradition of fugitive offenders, principles on the status and treatment of refugees, the model text for bilateral arrangements on mutual assistance in civil matters, and the model agreement for the promotion and protection of investments. We applaud all eminent legal experts from ALCO regions for these great achievements. It is for this reason that I am proud to offer Kenya's Professor Githu Muigai, the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, for the post of Judge of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. Professor Muigai holds extraordinary experience and distinguished service at the national and international level. During his tenure as Attorney General, he has greatly contributed to the enhancement of the rule of law, a task that has included overseeing the implementation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, an exercise that had requires the enactment of 136 new pieces of legislation. I would also like to introduce Mr. Simon Juguna, who is our candidate for the re-election as a member of the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf. We look forward to the support of your respective countries when the elections are carried out on the 27th meeting of the state parties to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which I understand will be held from the 12th to 16th June this year. Ladies and gentlemen, I have taken note that some of the topics this conference will deliberate upon include the legal aspects of violent extremism and terrorism, the status and treatment of refugees, selected items on the agenda of the International Law Commission, including areas on protection of the atmosphere, immunity of state officials from foreign criminal jurisdiction, and fundamental principles of international law. Other issues to be considered include recent developments on the International Criminal Court, international law in cyberspace, and considerations of the work of the ALCO's regional arbitration centers. You will also consider the combating of illegal trade on wild fauna and flora through cooperation under international legal framework, as well as promotion of the rule of law in Asia and Africa. I am satisfied these topics have been carefully selected so that member states continue upholding the spirit of unity under which we committed to continue forging closer African-Asian ties. Ladies and gentlemen, as many of you may already know, illegal trade in wild fauna and flora is a fast-growing international organized crime encompassing a wide range of flora and fauna. It is becoming more sophisticated, driven by rising demand and facilitated by corruption and weak governance across the various supply chains. Estimates from a range of international organizations place the monetary value of all illegal wildlife crime in tens of billions of US dollars annually. With these very disturbing statistics, it is clear that we as legislators, policymakers, judicial authorities, law enforcement agencies, and regulatory authorities, partnering with communities and other non-state actors, need to do more The strong commitment made at the global level must translate into immediate, decisive, and collective action to narrow the gap between these existing commitments and their implementation. But even as we embark on these obligations, we must do so coherently to fully address the multiple dimensions of these problems. Coordinated efforts are also required to avoid displacing the problem from one country or area to another. Terrorism continues to pose a major threat to international peace and security. In addition to the devastating human cost of terrorism, in terms of lives lost or permanently altered, terrorism acts aim to destabilize governments and undermine the economic and social development of humanity. It is worth noting that addressing this threat is that much more difficult given the complex and constantly evolving nature of terrorist activities. Its motivations, financing, methods of attack, and choice of targets are constantly changing. Terrorist acts often defy national borders. An act of terrorism can involve activities and actors from numerous countries. Given this complexity, the need to share best practice and lessons learned and to assist with the investigations and prosecution of terrorism cases is not debatable. Indeed, strong coordination and cooperation within national governments and between state organizations at the regional and international level is key to effectively combating terrorism. You have an important role to play, ladies and gentlemen, and it is my sincere hope that this conference will take its pride of place in the books of history by adopting resolutions on international legal matters that will transform the lives of our people in Asia and in Africa. In conclusion, I wish to thank the Asia-Africa Legal Consultative Organization Secretariat for ably steering the work of the organization and for ensuring that the interests of the two regions are well articulated in the international fora. We have every confidence in the new Secretary General that he will steer the organization towards achieving greater heights in the general development of international law. I wish you fruitful and successful deliberations in the 4 days of this conference, and I now take this opportunity to declare this 5th annual session of the Africa-Asia Legal Consultative Organization open. Thank you, and once again, welcome to Kenya.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Deputy President. Your Excellency, sir, if you may permit me to just invite briefly Director General Shung Hong to give us a brief vote of thanks. Director General.
His Excellency Honorable William Ruto, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Professor Gito Mugai, Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Mr. Rajesh Swami, the Deputy High Commissioner of India to Kenya, representing the President of the 55th Annual Session of OCO, His Excellency Dr. Sharma, Secretary General of OCO, Professor Kennedy Gaston, Honorable Ministers, Attorneys General, Heads of Delegations, distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor for me, on behalf of the President of the 54th Annual Session of OCO, His Excellency Mr. Liu Zhenmin, Vice Foreign Minister of China, to propose a vote of thanks at the inaugural session of this 56th Annual Session of OCO. As we all are aware, OCO, as a regional intergovernmental organization, has played a vital role in the Asian-African region in the field of international law ever since its birth in 1956. The annual session of OCO have offered a unique platform to the Asian African states to articulate their international legal concerns on a wide range of issues flowing from the international legal order. In the process, OCO has emerged as the only intergovernmental organization that brings together two continents of Asia and Africa in the progressive development and codification of international law. OCO now occupies an important position in the international legal community, both as an advisory body to its member states and as an essential mechanism for interregional cooperation and exchange of information and views on matters with an international legal dimension. Since the convening of Bandung Conference, more than half a century has passed, and drastic and profound changes have been taken place in the world. However, the Bandung spirit, which upholds principles of solidarity, friendship, and cooperation, still holds significant importance for Asian and African nations and the international community as a whole. OCO should continue to make great efforts to promote Bandung spirit and give it a new meaning in the new era, which has its own challenges, including the daunting tasks of upholding national security and social stability, accelerating economic and social development, as well as improving people's living standards. I would like to extend our wholehearted support and cooperation in advance to the incoming president of the 56th annual session of OCO. I'm sure that he will steer the proceedings of the session ably and rise to this intellectual occasion admirably. I would like to thank His Excellency Dr. V.D. Sharma, the President of the 55th Annual Session of OCO and Joint Secretary, Minister of External Affairs, Legal and Treaties Division, Government of India, for performing such a commendable role during the deliberations at the 55th Annual Session held in New Delhi in 2016. My deepest appreciation is due also to the important role played by the Secretary General of OCO, His Excellency Professor Dr. Kennedy Gosson, who has been leading OCO admirably for the past 1 year or so. It is my firm belief that his visionary leadership, aided by the full cooperation of our member states, will enable us to conquer new legal heights in the years to come. Furthermore, the Secretary General and his deputies and the other Secretariat officials should be commended for their untiring efforts in discharging their duties in an effective manner and carrying out the mandates and striving towards the realization of the objectives of OCO. Last but not the least, I would like to thank in advance the honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, and observers for their participation in the forthcoming deliberations, and I hope that this annual session continue in the legacy of past sessions and will try to produce some tangible outcomes for our collective future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director General. Your Excellency, sir, ladies and gentlemen, let's be
2008 to September 2011, Professor Mugai was the UN Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. Professor Githu Mugai was sworn as Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya on 23rd August 2011. He is the principal legal advisor to the government of the Republic of Kenya and also discharges the mandate of the Department of Justice. He also has responsibility the promotion of human rights and constitutional implementation, access to justice, good governance, ethics and integrity, legal education, law reform, legal aid, and the monitoring and reporting of Kenya's international legal obligations, among others. We are pleased to propose this extremely versatile and well-trained legal mind for the post of the President of the 56th Annual Session of ALCO. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the delegation of India
that we elect Professor Githu Muigai, the Elder of the Golden Heart and Senior Counsel and the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya as Honorable President for the 56th Annual Session of ALCO. I thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman, the delegation of Kenya is extremely happy to propose the name of Mrs. Villaman, Deputy Director General, Department of Treaties and Legal Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand, as the Honorable Vice President for the 56th Annual Session of ALCO. Mrs. Villaman has a distinguished career in the area of international legal affairs. Thank you.
I thank the
Mankala Tanakun, Deputy Director General, Department of Treaties and Legal Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Thailand, as the Honorable Vice President for the 56th Annual Session of ALCO. Thank you.
In running this session for the rest of the week and in supervising the activities of our organization for the rest of the year. We appreciate that with that honor comes responsibility, and my Vice President and I will endeavor to do our very best to hand over the organization next year to a new team in much better shape than we have received it. Thank you, all of you. Next, thank you. I will call upon our distinguished Secretary General to help us conduct the business that now lies ahead of us. The first one is the release of ALCO publications, and there are two publications this year. One is the yearbook of Asian African Legal Consultative Organization, and the second one is the ALCO Journal of International Law. And there are two other very special studies. First is the legality of prolonged Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory and its colonial practices under international law and under international humanitarian law. The second one is international law in cyberspace.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The yearbook of ALCO, which was previously known as Reports and Selected Documents, has been published since 2003. The yearbook remains the most comprehensive and authoritative reference work of the organization in a particular year. More specifically, the yearbook provides comprehensive information about ALCO, its activities, the studies prepared by the Secretariat on the agenda items during the year, summary of deliberations and resolutions adopted at the annual session. In addition, the yearbook contains statements delivered by the Secretary General and the Deputy Secretaries General at various forums and countries. In the last 15 years or so, the yearbook has established its place firmly among the publications as an important reference material not only for the member states of ALCO, but also for the other international organizations, international lawyers, academics who work in the field of international law. The 14th volume of the year 2016 of the yearbook has been prepared by the Secretariat and is now being released at this annual session. Mr. President, allow me also to make a statement regarding the next publication that we are going to unveil today, namely ALCO Journal of International Law. With a view to contribute towards a better knowledge and understanding of international law, which in turn can influence the discourse of global policy debate, ALCO had been publishing quarterly bulletin since 1976. In the year 1997, its name and the periodicity were changed to ALCO Bulletin, which brought out biannually till the year 2001. The Secretariat felt that there is a need to restructure the format and the mode of this publication, and after careful discussion and study, a totally overhauled publication in the new title, that is ALCO Quarterly Bulletin, was launched by beginning once again with Volume 1, Issue Number 1, dated January to March 2005, and was published until 2011. Beginning from 2012, the name of the bulletin was changed to ALCO Journal of International Law in order to provide guidance to the editorial body on matters of content and policy. We have also established an international advisory body. The advisory body is composed of scholars and legal practitioners from Asia and African region who have made an outstanding contributions to international law. The ALCO Journal of International Law contains articles by academics, practitioners, government experts, and students on a wide range of legal topics within the field of international law. It also incorporates a section called Current Development that discusses the legal significance of important recent events in matters of international law. From time to time, ALCO Journal has also focused on specific themes. The topic for this issue of ALCO of International Law, that is Volume 4, Issue 2 of 2015, is a thematic one focusing on the protection of cultural property and the norms of international humanitarian law. This has been prepared in collaboration with the ICLRC Regional Delegation in New Delhi.